it's me again, Nicole. We're in the kitchen now. We were in the garden, and I'm glad that you're still here with me. And we're going to take what we did in the garden a step further. We talked about creating that access to healthy food that everyone deserves in whatever neighborhood they live in. But that access might not be so helpful if we don't know what to do with those vegetables. So we're going to take some time to learn about some of those vegetables that we even picked from our garden in the back and make a delicious, super easy, super affordable meal that you can make at home, and hopefully you'll enjoy it and put your own spin on it and all kinds of good stuff like that. Today we're making Yucatan Veggie tacos, and they are flavored in such a way that is a little bit non-conventional, but trust me, all those flavors together are so delicious. So we're actually going to start with a purple onion that I've already chopped up, because if I chopped onions on camera, we would all be crying together. And I'm going to put those in my pan so they can start to brown and caramelize and soften just a bit. And I like to put those in first so that all of that those processes can start to happen with our onion. So while our onion begins to cook, let's cut up some of our other vegetables. We're going to put some carrots in. And carrots are kind of a sweeter root vegetable, but the way the flavors play off of everything in this dish is really awesome. I also love using carrots because they give a really nice crunch to the things that I'm cooking, and they've got some really great nutrients. They've got lots of beta carotenes, vitamin K, all things that are really great for our eyes, our skin, our hair, and our nails. And I'm slicing these up into thin slices today because I like the way that will fill out our taco. So we're going to cut those up. I've also got a purple cabbage. And I'm using a green cabbage too. So we're going to use both of these different flavors. And something that I really love about vegetables is that they have all these different nutrients based on the color. So we talked about the orange carrots and the beta carotene. Things that are purple, our onion, our purple cabbage, they have antioxidants that are really good for like our skin and anti-aging and things like that. So if we want to stay looking young and feeling healthy, purple is a really great way to go. So I'm going to slice that up kind of like coleslaw. I'm sure you've seen this before, and I'm not sure, in what ways you usually use cabbage, but I don't know if you've ever had it in a taco, and today I think you'll enjoy what we do with it. And then we've got our green cabbage here as well. I'm going to slice it up just like this red one. We cut it into kind of discs, and then we'll cut those straight across to create this kind of salad. And once you touch it and pull it apart, it falls apart, which is exactly what we want. So our onions are still cooking over here. I'm going to come in and check on them a little bit, and they're starting to really soften up and brown, and that's exactly what we want. Something else that's really, really cool about onions is they have their own natural form of sodium. So while we're looking to reduce the intake of things that can cause diabetes and high blood pressure, right, we can cook with vegetables that still give us the flavors that we're looking for. So now I'm going to add all my stuff in here, and I just want you to take a look at this, how colorful and beautiful this kind of rainbow of vegetables is. So we're going to add these to our skillet and get those cooking down. Now all of these vegetables are really, really high in water. So I actually did not need to add any oil to my pan. We're going to add a little bit of our seasoning, which also has water in it, and we're going to use a little vinegar, and we'll talk about that in a second. And I have my heat like medium, relatively low. The more we cook our vegetables, the more the nutrients we lose. So I like to cook my vegetables just enough so that they're palatable, so that you can chew them easily, but not too much because we want to make sure some of those nutrients are still there. So I like a little crunch left to my vegetables, and that's what we're going to do. So while these are starting to warm up and blend together, I'm going to get my sauce together. So I actually went to the grocery store and I bought chilies and adobo sauce. And this is a flavor that is not kind of usual in some of our communities, but I want you to just go with me today. So we're going to add some of this to our plate. What I do with this, because it can be very spicy, I add it in so that I can get that sauce all over the rest of my veggies. But then I take the chilies out because I don't want anyone to bite into those chilies, get those seeds in their mouth, and then have a really hard time. So I'm just adding the sauce in, and I'm going to mix that around. And I'm also going to add some water to help tamper down that spice a little bit. And again, something really cool about spices, right? They are really great for your immune system and your circulatory system. They help to really get your blood running and clean out your arteries and things like that. So it's a really good idea to use those kind of spices in your food. Not only do they taste good, but they serve a purpose as well. So as you can see, our vegetables are starting to soften up. I'm trying to coat them with that adobo sauce, and I might add just a little bit more to make sure I have a good coating on there. And whenever I add some of that sauce, I do add a little bit of water just to make sure, again, we don't go overboard with the spiciness. Some people like it super spicy, so you can kind of play around with the recipe and see how you feel about it. Now, generally, when I'm doing this, I have my tortillas heating up on the side. But hopefully through the magic of cooking, the magic of television, we'll get our tortillas cooked and ready to go by the time we're done. So the next thing I'm going to add into here, along with my adobo seasoning, is balsamic vinegar. Now you're probably saying to me, why would I eat a taco with balsamic vinegar? But I promise you, the way that the seasoning comes together is really, really beautiful. And that's one of the things that we really want to encourage when we're, in community with each other when it comes to our food. Vegetables may be something that are not appealing or not normal in our community, but when we think outside of the box a little bit, when we share information, when we share flavors and cultural practices with each other, you really come across some things that are really amazing. So not only are we trying new foods, but we're also nourishing ourselves in a really beautiful way. So I've got a little bit of balsamic vinegar here. I'm going to add about a tablespoon to my dish. And the sweetness of the vinegar, the acidity of it, is going to play really well with the sweetness of those carrots and the spiciness of that adobo seasoning. And we're going to allow that to cook a little bit. And you'll notice that the sauce will start to thicken up just a bit as it heats up and cooks. Along with that, I'm going to add a little bit of garlic powder to give us a bit of earthiness to our dish. This is about a tablespoon. And we'll mix that in together. And we know that garlic is something that's really, really good for our heart. So again, we're just arming ourselves with all these nutrients and this medicine that comes in our food. That's really good for our bodies. And if we get to a point where we can eat like this consistency the majority of the time, we will be doing something really, really revolutionary for ourselves and really for our community if we're sharing these things with each other and setting examples for our children and creating, a legacy kind of health with all these different practices with our fruits and vegetables. So we're going to let that cook up a little bit and allow it to reduce, as the chefs say, as the sauce kind of thickens up and the water burns off in there. And it looks really beautiful, right? The cabbage has softened up in a really pretty way. I'm going to start to remove these chilies out of the way so that we don't bite into something just way too spicy. And something really cool about vegetable dishes as well is that you can amend them in any way you want. If you're someone that really likes zucchini or eggplant or things like that, you should add them. You should cut them up in ways that are fulfilling to you and add them to these dishes. They'll take on the flavors in the same ways that the cabbage and the carrots do and can, make it your own. You can even add something like a whole grain rice or lean cuts of chicken to this if you want to round it out a little more. I like to serve this with whole grain rice on the side with some black beans and, make it, a really full and complete and fulfilling meal. And it smells really good. I wish you could smell it. So while that's happening, actually, I think I'm going to just go ahead and move some of this out of the way. And we're going to warm up our tortillas right in this pan. And I promise you, if I can do this here, you can do this at home. So I've got my corn tortillas right here. And I'm just gonna put them in the pan just for a little bit. I like them to be a bit warm so that they're easier to fold, easier to use, and that they match the warmth of the food that I'm putting inside of it. So I'm gonna let that warm up right there. My heat is pretty low because I don't want my vegetables to cook too much, just like we talked about before. And while that's happening, why don't we cut up some of the vegetables that we harvested from our own garden. So I've got some cilantro here that we just harvested, as well as some oak lettuce. And I love to round out my tacos with a bed of lettuce. I think it's a really great way to add just like a freshness to them and a little bit of like a neutralizing flavor. So I love putting lettuce as the base for my tacos. So I'm gonna chop up my cilantro over here into nice small pieces. I know cilantro can be like an acquired taste for some, so use it at your discretion. If there's other seasonings that you prefer, go ahead and get those ready so that you can use them the way that you'd like to. So we're chopping those up, and I got my lettuce, and I'm gonna put right in the bed of my taco. So now let's plate it up. I got my nice warm tortilla here. It's feeling good. It's not too hot. I didn't make it crispy, so it's working for me right there. I've got my lettuce from the garden or your windowsill if you're growing it in-house. So I'm gonna just lay those right there. Then I'm gonna go ahead and put in my filling. And these are nice small tacos, and they're full of veggies, so you can probably have 2 or 3 and not feel too bad about it. I'm gonna garnish it here with my cilantro, and then I like to take it a step further. I've got some mozzarella cheese, and I'm not using a cheddar because mozzarella, I have a part skim and it is lower in fat. So that's another one of those kind of small habits that we can get into, looking for dairy products that are lower in fat to add to our diet. So I'm gonna put just a bit of mozzarella. You don't need too much, especially with all these really wonderful flavors. And then we've got our salsa. So we've got everything from lettuce to cabbage to carrots, tomatoes, peppers, onions, and some cilantro, all on this beautiful, colorful, amazing taco. That looks beautiful. It feels light, so I'm not going to feel heavy and sluggish when I'm done with it. And this is something that didn't take me long to make up. You could make the filling and put it in your refrigerator and store it for a while, and then you'll have a simple, easy choice. But we've gone all the way from the garden to the kitchen to the plate, and I feel really good about that. I hope you do too. And I hope you learn about more ways to get involved with food justice, health equity, gardening, food access, healthy eating and nutrition in your community. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm gonna finish my taco, if you don't mind. Bye, everybody.